Dr. William Warrick III, he was born in Philadelphia in December of 1943, 20 days after Jim Mars. He attended Central High School in 1962, American Graffiti, so was Jim Mars. His generation started a change in our world. He was drafted 5 days after Martin Luther King was assassinated, and he became an intelligence analyst. He went to school, got a psychiatry degree, is that correct? Psychology degree. You said psych, so I wasn't sure which one it was. He got a degree from Temple University. He began open source intelligence career to bring truth to all assassinations and the crime that took place on September 11, 2001. If you would, please help me welcome Dr. William Warrick III.
I'm also an MD. I graduated from the University of Pennsylvania. And I want to thank Judith for allowing me to get some time and to be able to do this. 1, 2, 3, can people hear? Okay. Okay. I want to thank Judith for allowing me to do this because this is great. It's for her, but especially this is for Paul O'Connor, who is a friend of mine, and he died in 2006. I met him in 1993 in Gainesville, Florida, where we both lived. He came to a Vets for Peace meeting, and that's where I met him. Paul has said the same thing for all the years that I've known him, plus past before that, and his story is always the same, and it's never changed. I have a lot of personal connections to the assassination itself, actually both of them. William Coleman was the staff attorney for the Warren Commission. He was the only African American on it. Our family had been friends for three generations, and he was sent by the commission to meet Castro in the 1950s in Harlem. He met Castro in the 50s in Harlem while enjoying the nightlife there, so he knew him. So the Warren Commission sent him to talk to Castro about any association he might have had. He was taken by the Navy and met Fidel on his yacht. They spoke for 3 hours. Mr. Coleman interrogated him for 3 hours, and he came to the conclusion that Castro was not involved. At the time, prior to the assassination, he had persuaded Khrushchev to get back in touch with JFK so they could communicate. The three of them were about to end the Cold War. And that was the reason for the assassination, primarily. The ranking autopsy technician, of course, Paul O'Connor, was a friend of mine, provided firsthand information about what went on in the suite that night. Of course, Lee's girlfriend, Judith, went to high school with my wife. Sally was a year ahead of her, and she was sent to New Orleans to assist Dr. Mary Sherman, which you can read in Dr. Mary's Monkey by Ed Haslam. And Lee was her CIA handler. When she first went there, she went to the post office to mail some letters. Lee was behind her in line, and soon after that, they developed a love affair. She was assisting Dr. Mary Sherman to develop this cancer vaccine or cancer virus to assassinate Castro. She didn't know that. She thought she was trying to create a cure for cancer, because this had been her life's work. Now, on RFK's assassination, I have another firsthand connection. Robert, as I said, was murdered 8 days, or as he said, I was murdered 8 days after I was inducted into the Army Security Agency. I never really got into doing anything with that until I got out and found out from this, something from the friend, from one of the kids I grew up with. Their father was with the greatest neurosurgeon in the country on vacation up in Canada, and they were called from the emergency room in Los Angeles by the neurosurgeons about Robert. They wanted to get some information from this neurosurgeon. He had, because they possibly wanted to operate. He told them not to operate and to treat him in the normal manner, which is to treat with corticosteroids, watch him, reduce the brain edema, and see if he can hang on. But instead, they decided to operate, and of course, then he died. So my friend's father was with him, and so I heard this story after I got out of the Army in December of '71. My cousin, Meta Warrick Fuller, died in the Pentagon on September 11th, and after that, I made it my business to study 9/11. I had a patient who was the son of a man named Jack Lowe, who showed films at the White House and did some photography. Whenever he showed films, the patient always, or the president always made sure he got a tray of food, because these were shown after dinner. I have another patient who grew up with Dr. Ochsner's kids and went to school with them. He was running this program to develop this cancer virus to kill Castro. His mother was a close friend of Carlos Marcello. So that's all of those. Now, I want to go to the autopsy that Dr. Wecht was talking about yesterday, and that is here. We're looking at that, and there's a big difference between his autopsy and that of JFK. The next page here shows the wounds. The fatal gunshot wound was in the right mastoid, which is down here, behind the right ear. He described it in detail. And of course, as Dr. Wecht said last night, the pistol that was used to kill him was 1.5 inches away from his skull when it was fired. There were 2 other wounds, those in the axilla, and one of them lodged in his neck, the other nicked the top of his lung and caused a collapsed lung. When you look through this, it's got fantastic detail. There were 31 slides. They're numbered and separated by letters. So there were 3 sets, 31 altogether. These 2 axillary wounds were not fatal. Examine the clothing. It's just going through page by page here, showing how detailed that is. And Peter Fink was involved in this as well. He worked with the microscopic slides. This continues. Okay, here's the skull films. They didn't have CAT scans or MRIs in those days. Bullet was lodged up in his neck, I believe is right here. This continues. Here are 2 probes that he put in the axillary wound to determine their direction. All the shots were from right to left, back to front, and up. So this places the shooter behind his right shoulder. And as Dr. Warrick went through last night, he was 6 feet in front, Sirhan was 6 feet in front of him. He was jumped on immediately by Rosie Greer and Rayford Johnson, former New York Giant All-Pro tackle. Rosie Greer and Rayford Johnson won the decathlon in 1960. So he was on the ground, he was still firing. He nicked Paul Schrade, but he didn't hit JFK. The only 3 bullet wounds were the ones from behind the right shoulder. Here's other photographs. He describes all the organ systems in detail, all the slides that were taken. It's still going. Okay. Finally, we come to the JFK autopsy. It starts out with a description of what went on in Dallas. Now, if you remember, Dr. Noguchi had a detailed description of all 3 wounds. The fatal wound was first and all that, but this talks about someone firing from a 6th floor window in Dallas. This does not belong in a forensic autopsy. All of that ends here. He talks about the body being on the presidential plane brought to D.C. He gives a general description of the body. Superficial descriptions of some other things. Here's the summary of all the different organ systems. And that's the end of it. So it's a little less than 5 pages. So compare that to 59 pages of Dr. Noguchi. The 2 doctors had never done a forensic autopsy before. One was head of the lab, and the other was the head of the school at Bethesda for the technicians. So as you can see, this does not compare to Dr. Noguchi's autopsy, which was a real forensic autopsy. This was just kind of a general autopsy. Okay, next, I want to go over here. First, I want to start with okay, you mean of the here in the corner to drop this down. And can you do it with your finger?
Let it go.
Well, no, I want to play. I can't get to what I want to get to. This is Paul's testimony at the mock trial, and it was held, I believe, in England, between Jerry Spence and Vincent Bugliosi. Spence questions Paul first.
Who you are?
My name is Paul K. O'Connor. I was from Gainesville, Florida.
Would you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what you were doing when you were 21 years old?
Yes.
What were you doing?
I was a hospital corpsman, United States Navy, and I was stationed in Bethesda, Maryland.
At Bethesda Hospital where the president was brought?
Yes, sir.
Were you present when they brought the president in?
Yes, sir.
And would you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what your duties were at Bethesda Hospital at that time?
Well, I worked with a partner. We assisted in postmortem. My job in postmortem was to remove the deceased brain.
Are you just a little bit nervous?
A little bit.
Well, I don't blame you. It's all right. Just take your time.
If he was that close to me, I'd be a little worried too, Mr. O'Connor.
I'll back off.
Thank you.
We're all in this together, so just take your time.
Speak up just a little bit, if you would, please, Mr. O'Connor.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Now, when the president came in, what did you do?
The casket came in approximately 8 o'clock in the evening. They set the casket on the floor beside the table, and we opened the casket. Inside was a body bag. The body bag was unzipped, and we removed the president's body and placed it on the table.
Did you help do that?
Yes.
Did you have your hands on him?
Yes.
At what part of his body, sir?
His shoulders.
All right, you were at the head end.
Yes.
Well, now let's just describe to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what you were prepared to do. What were you prepared to do?
Prepare the body, to remove the brain. And
You were prepared to remove the brain?
Yes.
And would you tell the jury how that's done, please?
In order to remove a brain from a deceased person, you have to make an incision that goes from ear across the top of the head to ear. Then the scalp is slowly peeled back until it's hooked under the chin on the front. The scalp is retracted in the back the same way. You then cut the temporal muscles on both sides. You have two sets of muscles on both sides called temporal muscles. They're cut. Then I used a saw and sawed completely around at the top of the cranium. And then what, sir? You take a small chisel and you pry the cranium loose and open up the top of the skull where you have the dura mater, which is a tough, fibrous membrane that covers the brain. And that's then cut with a pair of scissors all the way around, close to where you've done the cutting with the saw. That exposes the whole top of the brain. At that time, you reach in very gently with your left hand and you pull up the front of the brain and cut the optic nerves and other nerves and veins and arteries that hold and support the cranium, the brain in the cranium.
All right, now, Mr. O'Connor, in this case, we have developed some facts. That when these doctors who testified here came before this jury to testify, there was never shown a brain. Although they were told there had been a brain placed in a bucket of formaldehyde, but they never were shown the brain. Do you have an explanation for that?
Yes, I do.
Would you tell the jury what the explanation is?
The president's brains were literally blown out of his head. He had none.
Are you saying that there was no brain in the bed?
There was no brain. There were pieces of brain matter that were inside the cranium, just macerated pieces. Nothing that you could tell one part from the other.
What do you mean there were pieces? How much of the brain was left in the skull?
Maybe a handful at the most.
You mean a full handful or what?
Maybe a half a handful.
Now, did you open the president's brain as you would in an ordinary case?
We didn't have to.
You mean you didn't peel the president's brain back?
No, sir. There was nothing to do. He had a monstrous hole in his head.
And so there was never a cut around or the brain taken out?
We didn't have to.
Because because the brain wasn't there?
The brain was gone. For all practical purposes, it was gone.
Or when these people draw pictures of the brain, when these people say that there were pictures taken, photographs taken of the brain, what do you have to say about that?
They must be talking about somebody else.
Well, were you at the head of the president all during the time the autopsy was
The whole
going on?
time.
When people say that the brain was fixed in formaldehyde, is that true?
No.
Is that a lie, sir?
It has to be. There's no brain.
Thank you, sir. You may adjourn. Mr. O'Connor, you were 21 at the time, sir. The time of the accident?
21 or 22, I'm not really sure right now, sir.
I have no doubt, Mr. O'Connor, that in a normal situation it would be you that would remove the brain from the decedent, but this obviously and unquestionably was not a normal situation. You certainly agree with me on that?
Yes, sir.
Is it possible then that the autopsy surgeons would have done this, as opposed to you in this situation, since it was so unusual?
Well, they did most of the mundane jobs that we did that night.
Okay. But they did not remove the brain from the body.
There was no brain to be removed.
The official autopsy report of this case, Mr. O'Connor, dated November 22nd, 1963, states on page 4, the brain is removed and preserved for further study following formalin fixation. Also, from the surface of the disrupted right cerebral cortex, 2 small irregularly shaped fragments of metal are recovered. These measure 7 by 2 millimeters and 3 by 1 millimeter. These are placed to the custody of agents Francis X. O'Neill, Jr. and James W. Siebert of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, who executed a receipt therefore. Now, Mr. O'Connor, 3 surgeons signed their name to this autopsy report. Are you saying that none of these things happened?
Not to my knowledge, I didn't.
Okay. Now, in 1978, you were interviewed by the House Select Committee on Assassinations, is that correct?
That's correct.
And this was a 1.5-hour interview.
Yes, it was. I can remember.
Now, Mr. O'Connor, if the president's brain being missing from his head was one of the most shocking things that you've ever seen in your entire life, a matter that you think should have been investigated, certainly. And if they spoke to you for 1.5 hours, that's your observations that night, why wasn't it important enough for you to tell these people about it?
I was under orders not to talk until that time.
What?
I was under orders not to talk to anybody.
By whom?
The United States military brought in orders a couple of days after the autopsy, and we were to remain silent.
But you talked to her for 1.5 hours. You told them all types of things you haven't talked to them.
I received permission from the Select Committee on Assassinations to talk to the Secretary of Navy and Secretary of Defense.
Paul, when I first asked you this question over the phone, did you tell me the reason I never told them is they never asked me?
Well, they didn't ask me.
And that's why you didn't tell me.
Yes, sir.
So in other words, Mr. O'Connor, even though this is one of the most shocking things that you've ever seen, and you're going to remember to the day you die, and you feel this matter should have been investigated. If those investigators from the House Select Committee didn't ask you the magic question, by golly, you're not about to tell them it. Is that correct?
Well, sir, I only asked it, but I answered what I was asked, and that was it.
I see.
Collaboration.
No further questions. Thank you, Mr. O'Connor. You may step forward.
That was Vincent Goodwin, who convicted Charles Manson, Charles Schaefer,
I was involved in the gaga of the world.
as I said on the Warrick, that Kennedy case, he was alive in the Women's World, the largest famous university, the Temple University. He was with his father, and they were nothing out there that they did. I don't know if that's been discussed in any of the other researchers of the RFK autopsy, but that was the as I said, and then some other description of what happened and what the law has to do. He said the trade was a trade news and this civil rights. It was a funnel shot war of the blacks, and it was not easily visible. The gallery was full of people, FBI agents, war crime officers, one of which was President of the U.S. all of these generals and admirals did not like JFK or happy with what happened. The general president days were really involved because of the way he was talking. There were people who were described, people who followed particularly each other, and to organized chaos. And this is what really the spirit of war was. Things did not go the way they were supposed to go in Afghanistan. So what we have here is the assassin of the private family with the arms of those warriors, so that's what happens in front of them, 6 feet in front of them, 2 million guys in front of them, firing rifles, so they did not fire shots. So the answer is innocent. We don't have to let out of jail. We have Lee, who went out of jail, is innocent. And then there's one who recovered and Paul and before everyone in the back there was really broken out. Covered the war, didn't not trial a January 11. He was not a racist. He was for a lot of shows in his place. And so none of these three recovered. And then there's one who just had this John, and now he was definitely the picture. So we have 3 passing, none of them recovered. We have John and so these people were just killing people who did not believe. Put a body up and people want to ask questions.
If they want to, please step up here to the microphone. We have 5 minutes.
I'm really confused. Can you talk about the discrepancy between what Paul O'Connor said and what Jim Jenkins said here at this conference?
It's not even talking to Paul, it's for Paul, it's what Paul said. I'm so glad we're talking about Warrick, who got a very raw deal. He wasn't supposed to exit through the academy, of course, but through the general ballroom until an aide came up to direct him into the pantry, who appears to have been Mankiewicz, who was very close to Bobby as press secretary, and who he would have had confidence. He was associated with, he was being escorted by a security guard by the name of Caesar, who was holding Bobby's right arm with his left, who appears to have fired with the same caliber pistol that Sirhan was firing from an inch and a half behind his right ear, and his body fell and continued to fire and hit Bobby twice under the armpit, one bullet which impacted the spine. Another bullet went through his jacket but didn't actually hit Bobby. So the thing Eugene Caesar appears to have been the hitman. And in some of the video coverage, there's reason to think there might have been a shooter besides Caesar.
I was hoping to mention the diagrams, we have in some of the autopsy reports about Bobby that illustrate the points I'm making.
Well, this is the autopsy report that the doctor usually do. They put it on the files.
And of course, you may have mentioned that when there was a discrepancy between the LAPD report and then the police report, because the LAPD reports was blaming on Serbian, who would have got within 3 feet of Bobby. The reason was fired. I mean, this was a world-famous medical examiner, one of the best in the world. He was fired because his report, with all the basis for a legal inquiry, was inconsistent with the LAPD, which subsequently dismembered, physically took him on the pantry with the cases of as many as 15 rounds, and then destroyed the evidence on the ground of the wood fitted to the 3x5 file cabinet. I tell you, this is one of the most outrageous murders to which we've been subjected. This fellow in the UK, Solomon, has done wonderful work on RFK was died.
These are
go right ahead.
So the other one I want to know, this is stated for all the things and other slide it over a little bit. Oh, here it is right here.
I was involved in the gaga of the world. I'm in the middle of this. I'm interviewing Jim Garrison, who's the district attorney from New Orleans, and he is investigating the Kennedy murders on his own later led to the movie JFK. Got to know.
This is our Jack's assassination. Here's the doctor's separation. Here's the press secretary who was substituting for Pierre Salinger, pointing to the entrance wound right forehead.
The LAPD and the CIA both appear to have been involved in...
Here, in this picture here, I saw one of Paul's pictures that showed a big hole like this. Here's the one that Mr. Tannenbaum showed yesterday where they had the metallic fragments and so forth. When I saw Paul's pictures, said to Paul, it looks like they put a hammer to his head. This is the Dallas personnel, and that's what they saw. But it sounds like from what Paul said and what the other three said, and who were interviewed by David Lifton. Here's an article in the New York Post, which came out, let me get this up here, not long ago, June 21st of 17. So there are people still talking about this. This is this is Dr. McClellan's drawing of that wound. And then over here, I don't have it up right now. It's Landia JFK.
I just want to thank you for discussing Bobby. It's so important. Thank you so very much.
I have one other link, which I don't really have time to bring up right now, but it's David Lifton's research video where he interviewed Paul, the funeral home director, and Dennis David, and Gerald Custer, who was the x-ray tech who took the x-ray. Gerald Custer stated that he was able to put both his hands into the wound. That's how big it was.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. William Warrick III.